Hey, what's happening, folks? You know what time it is. We clutched up, we clutched out. You know exactly what we talking about. Welcome to the factory. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna spend the next half an hour to an hour with your two favorite hosts that'll never leave you in the dark with a ghost on any post. You feel me? Right there across the screen. That's my main man, Boss Hog, Boss Dog, K Poke through the dough. You feel me? And you got me, Brody on the hustle, aka Coach B. It ain't too much to see. I'ma always be me and do me. But with that being said, with no further delay, K-Po, go ahead and let them know what we here to chop it up about today.
Like he said, man, we here to chop it up. We clutched up, we clutched out. You know what we talking about? We talking about Boots versus Brian Norman. Who ducked who? Stay tuned. Hey man, we back at it like a crack at it, but we ain't doing no drugs around here. We shooting vids. Like he said, boss, that's coach. We back at it. Now, today the topic of discussion is Brian Norman Jr., the newly crowned WBO full WBO champion, 147 pounds. Let's let that be clear. Terence Crawford has vacated all his belts. He is not the undisputed champion. He does not have any belts at 147 pounds now. He's officially 154 pounder. Brian Norman Jr. has been talking, right? And he's been talking towards the other champion, IBF champion, Boots Ennis, right? Both of these guys kind of got their belts the same way, right? Um, they were kind of elevated into that champion status, that full champion status. Yeah, Brian Norman fought Santillan, but Santillan had an interim belt. And then Boots, he was trying to get his opportunity with Crawford, but Crawford didn't want to negotiate with him. So these guys were chirping back and forth, and deals were sent. And we just doing a little background. Deals were sent. Brian Norman declined the offer. Brian Norman reportedly wants $2 million. Eddie Hearn reportedly sent $1.75 million to Brian Norman, right? In which Brian Norman sent counter offers asking for $2 million. And I think a little bit above $2 million. I think it's like 2.5 as well. So
2.2. Yep.
So due to the fact that Brian Norman declined the fight,
Get somebody else to do
Coach,
it.
the question is this a duck? Did Brian Norman duck Boots Ennis, or is it Eddie Hearn manipulating the situation to get Boots Ennis to just fight his mandatory? Let me know something.
All right, what it is, folks. Like I said, he gave you some of the background already briefly. At this time, pause no freaky is in full effect throughout this video. But let's go ahead and get into it. Again, he already broke down some of the background stories. Now, in my opinion, their careers are kind of running parallel at this moment with Brian Norman Jr. and Boots Ennis because of simple fact, Terrence Crawford did vacate all his entitlements to the 147 pounder division. So they both kind of stepped in and was elevated, just like K-Po said, to champions. That's their leverage right now. Those belts, that's what they hold on to. Now we're gonna go back a little bit into the backdrop story. He already mentioned Santillan with Brian Norman. Shortly after Brian Norman Jr. fought Santillan, Boots went on to make his first defense with his title against David Avenesian, in which he also got a KO. So again, they're still running parallel, but now they come to this fork in the road to where both of them both of their careers are going to meet up, and it has met up, but it's at the point to where both of them have different type of stories that they're trying to unfold. Boots on one side is more for legacy. Brian Norman Jr. being young at 23 years old, he's still trying to get to the bag, and he feels like if he's going to fight, in my opinion, if he's going to fight a Jerome Boots Ennis and then possibly lose his leverage, he feels like, in my opinion, he's going for the bag. I need something else to fall back on other than just taking my belt and I'll get a fight with Boots. No, I need leverage. So, long story short, I'm gonna say, like I say, about a week ago, I would have labeled it as a duck, but now that I done dug deeper and kind of read into some of the stuff that went on, behind the scenes with the promotion deals and trying to get the contract signed and all that other stuff. I'm not gonna label it a duck just yet, but at the same time, I'm gonna go ahead and point the finger at Eddie Hearn. Why? I'm gonna point the finger at Eddie Hearn because now it's starting to seem like Eddie Hearn is one of those guys who keeps his hand in his pocket and keeps his fist clenched over his money in his pocket. It's kind of like he don't want to show how much money he really can, put out there to get these fights done.
Wouldn't want to spoil your fun, Mr. Cheapskate.
But at the same time, you have a fighter like Boots. That's the guy you want to put the money on. That's the guy who you should be going all in on. That's the guy who deserves it. Because, like I say, Boots is one of those guys who's aiming for legacy. And again, I refer back to Earl Spence. Earl Spence really wasn't chasing the bag when he was out there doing his thing. Earl Spence got the big fights, and as he started to build a brand and make a name for himself, the bag came along with it. And I feel like that's the same path Jerome Boots Ennis is trying to head down with the legacy part of it. If you chase the legacy and you do what you're supposed to do in boxing, the bag is going to come automatically. The brand is going to fall in place. The money's going to fall in place. Everything's going to happen. But at the same time, Eddie Hearn has to be invested in the guy like Boots to help make this happen. Now, for this to happen, of course, Boots has to fight Norman Jr. to get that belt, so he can do the undisputed thing, so he can do the unification thing. This has to line up. And again, like I said before, Eddie Hearn has to understand with a guy like Boots in your stable, you have to help him make this happen. And right now, I'm pointing the finger at Eddie Hearn. What is the reason you won't actually pay for Boots to get a fight like this?
Don't worry, I'll wait.
This is a very important fight for Boots, and not only Boots, but also Brian Norman Jr. I don't know if he's looking at it like, I don't want him to be able to come up off of me and Boots, but at the same time, this is important to Boots. If you're paying attention to your fighters, your job is to make sure all the nuances and the minute things your fighter is pointing out, telling you, hey, I'm more worried about legacy. You know what I'm saying? It's already hard enough because we're in a generation of boxing to where belts don't mean anything. It's more like tickets, sales, media, and all that good stuff. But Boots is still one of those old school guys who wants his resume to mean something at the end of the day. So again, long story short, I'm pointing the finger at Eddie Hearn. And again, I'm not going to label it a duck just yet. We got to see. We got to wait another year, maybe, or some more months to see if they get another offer out there and see if Brian Norman Jr. chooses to decline. But I got a little bit more on Brian Norman Jr. as we go through this. But I'm going to go ahead and let you give your little snippet on what you got, how you feel about this.
I look at it from both sides. In my opinion, these dudes been negotiating. Offers been sent 3 times. You can look at it as a duck from Brian Norman. But also, you look at it from another perspective. You can also look at as a way of Eddie Hearn finessing the situation. And what I mean by that is this. Eddie Hearn is the type of guy that send contracts out and lowball you on purpose. So you can decline the offer and then say, oh, look, we sent him an offer and he didn't want to take it. Now, one thing that Eddie Hearn has backing him is he has that batikani moni na ni na, that turkey alisik. He got him, right? So you could have offered Brian Norman what he asked for. Give him 2.5. Give him 2 million or give him 2.5. Right? To eliminate all the excuses, all the doubt. Right? He wants $2 million. Okay, and we're gonna go on. I'm gonna break that down in the nuances based off the offer y'all sent him. But he wants $2 million. You have an all-time great talent, right? In Boots Ennis. Why not pay his opponent that money and let Boots have this moment? Boots wants to become undisputed. Boots wants to, fight everybody. 147 pounds up to 154. He don't care. He just want to fight. He wants to fight the best. As a fan of boxing, I want to see Boots fight the best. Right? So if I'm Eddie Hearn, Boots, you really want to fight him? Yeah. All right, cool. We're going to give him 2 million or 2.5. I'm going to make that offer for him. Let him accept that offer, and we're going to move on. And you're going to get that fight. If he don't accept it, then they let you know right there he's ducking. That's just what it is. Now, with the offer that they sent Brian Norman, right? Top Rank was already going to tax him 20%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to, a lot of that money going to be gone. He got to pay for sparring partners. He got to pay for a training camp, right? He got to pay for food, right? He got to pay for equipment. All that costs money. So he may be pocketing, going home with maybe $500K.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. For a unification fight. Right? This is a unification. Both of these guys have not done anything to big up. You see what I'm saying? Like, their careers are pretty equal, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Parallel. Yep.
And I'm not talking about skills. I'm just talking about the caliber of fighters that they fought. Right? It's pretty equivalent, right? How they got their belts is equivalent, right? So why not bet on your fighter and send whatever offer you can, Eddie Hearn, to Brian Norman? Whatever he asking for, give it to him. You know? That's what Elspeth did with Terrence Crawford. He said, hey, this what he want? Bet, give it to him. I just want to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So this all circles back to Eddie Hearn, right? In my opinion. Because Eddie Hearn is blowing smoke and mirrors. He's putting smoke and mirrors up. He's sitting there, like I told y'all, sending these guys contracts. He sent a contract to Mario Barrios. He sent a contract to Stanionis. Stanionis was like, I didn't even know you sent the contract to me. Then he looked at it and he said, oh, yeah, okay. But no, that's not enough money. So you're making Boots be the odd man out, and this is why I sit here and say that Boots made the wrong decision signing with Eddie Hearn. Boots Ennis is going to end up being like Demetrius Andrade if he don't take control of his career. Demetrius Andrade was a talented, skillful southpaw that nobody wanted to fight. Demetrius Andrade signed with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn had all 160-pound fighters. He had a stable. And Andre didn't fight none of them. These dudes were signed to the same promotional company as him. Andre didn't sign. Andre didn't fight none of them. Wasted his whole career. Finally, he signs with PBC, gets a fight with David Benavidez, and we saw how that went.
Mm-hmm.
So all I'm saying at the end of the day is Eddie Hearn, and I want Boots, if he can hear this, or anybody that's with Boots, Eddie Hearn is not the way for you. I'm sorry. It's not. I'm passing back to you.
So I also wanted to add this to the whole situation from the Brian Norman side of it. In a sense, I get everything he got going. I get where he's coming from. This is if you want me to get in here with a guy like Boots, you got to pay me. Again, if I'm Eddie Hearn and Boots needs this fight, it's not even a want, it's a necessity at this point. Boots needs this for his legacy, his brand, his resume, to put everything, to make everything come full circle. Eddie Hearn should be the guy to say, all right, you're my guy. Let's make it happen. Just like Capo said, just like I said when I dropped my first little snippet. But again, I wanted to throw this in there. The reason why I could see people calling this a duck is because the verbiage Brian Norman Jr. has attached to Boots as a fighter. You know what I'm saying? I'm stepping away from the business aspect side of it right now, and I'm getting to the physical side of it. Brian Norman Jr. has been, heard, and it's been put out that Brian Norman Jr. has said that Boots is not the top of the top when it comes to this division. So that, not when you say stuff like that, then the offer comes your way. Now it's a chance for people to give that duck, put that duck label on it, because the simple fact of you saying Boots is not the top of the division. He's not the guy of the division. He's not the best of the best in the division. But at the same time, it's more like, Hey, an offer was sent to you. From what I understand, it was 3 offers sent, and you declined all of them. But at the same time, Boots is not the top. If you're the best in the division, why not fight the guy that everybody else thinks is the best? So
Mm.
that's why people has the opportunity to equate this to a duck because you choose to take a fight against who's he fighting? Derek Cuevas. Derek Cuevas November 8th. And then what's crazy is you take that fight when our reality, you take that fight on Keyshawn Davis versus Limo's card. Keyshawn Davis is never going to be in the position that y'all are in. Keyshawn Davis has nothing to solidify his career, but yet you're the undercard on somebody who should be the undercard of the undercard. You're supposed to be the main event, but you choose to take that. So that's why people are throwing the duck label on this. And then again, if you tie Eddie Hearn back into it, it just makes it all the worse because you're supposed to be able to take care of a guy like Boots. But yet, again, like you mentioned, he had guys like Andre and wasted their career. Now this is going to be one of those situations where everybody has to sit back and wait for Boots to kind of play out his contract with Eddie Hearn and move elsewhere. And then who knows at that point, people going to start throwing that other label on it. Oh, you fighting him too late. He too old. Boots out of his prime. He out of his window. You know what I'm saying? So now Eddie Hearn is wasting yet again another great talent in the sport of boxing. So at the same time, that's how I feel like the duck label can be thrown on it for Brian Norman Jr. And then for Boots, it sucks. Just like Capo said, man, you got to get away from Eddie Hearn. You got to find a way to take control of your career because if you stay with him, it's not gonna happen. So I'm done speaking on behalf of this subject. If any more questions come out, I'm down to chop it up and answer any more questions about this subject right here because it's sad to see that it's going this way, but at the same time, what can we do about it? But if I had to speak from a fighter's perspective and what I think would happen in the ring, Norman ain't getting with no boots, and it is
Mm.
what it is. He ain't getting with no boots at all, and it is what it is. I don't even have to go in depth with that. If you think Brian Norman Jr. can get in there and compete with somebody like Boots at the age of 23, still that far, still young in his career, then you crazy. You're crazy.
Facts. I think Boots is levels levels above Brian Norman as far as skill. I think Boots is a better inside fighter. I think Boots is a better outside fighter. I think Boots is a better counter puncher, better defensive fighter, has better feet work, has higher IQ than Brian Norman Jr. Um, I think Brian Norman Jr. is a good up and coming fighter, and I think he had a night of nights against Santillion. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But against a Boots, I'm sorry, he gonna stop you, bro. And it may be, I'm just being real. It may be 5 rounds. I give 5 rounds. You know what I mean?
That's
I
about what I
just
said.
because Brian Norman gonna have to bring the fight to Boots. That's the only way he gonna win this
Mhm.
fight. He can't sit there and try to fight on the outside. Boots gonna kill you. He can't sit there and try to, counter Boots. He gonna kill you. His best bet to get Boots is on the inside, in which that's risky in itself. So it's just Boots is leaps and bounds better. Now, the problem I have with the Brian Norman situation is the whole daddy son relationship. Now, I think his dad, Brian Norman Sr., is a little delusional. I do feel like that way. He talk a lot, and
Facts.
I think he reminds me of Teofimo Lopez's dad. You know
Oof.
what I'm saying? And I think that you gotta let your son get the spotlight. It's almost like these fathers are doing what they can to get the spotlight on them, and you're taking the spotlight away from your son. You want to build up your son.
Mhm.
You're not building him up by every time something pop out, you responding for your son. Your son need to be responding. If that's not who he is, then hey, it is what it is. But you don't need to be talking a lot. Like Danny Garcia, and I'm gonna say this, and then you know I'm gonna conclude. Danny Garcia's dad, Angel Garcia, was doing the same thing. Danny Garcia told his dad, "You need to chill out." PBC told his dad, "You need to chill out." And what did he do?
Mhm.
He chilled out, took a back seat, right, and let Danny start talking more. Let Danny Garcia do the things that he needs to do to promote himself. You know what I'm saying? So I think Brian Norman needs to do that. You know what I mean? Boots and his dad, they kind of got the approach that I like. Man, we ain't doing all that talking. What we talking for? I'm gonna get to fight you. So, you know, what I need to talk to you for. I mean, now granted, it's entertaining for fans. It's entertaining for us. It draws more eyes to the fight, gets the casual fan to come in. But other than that, like, what I need to talk to you for?
Right.
You
Facts.
know, we gonna get in the ring, and you gonna see what I'm talking about when we get in the ring. So I think that Boots is kind of in a messed up situation. I'm gonna conclude with this: Boots Ennis might be on the outside looking in. You got PBC. They got Mario Barros, who's WBC champion. He might be fighting Pacquiao. You got Stanionis, who's also working with PBC now, right? So they can make a unification between them. I'm hearing that Brian Norman Jr. might be fighting Teofimo Lopez, who's moving up to 147 pounds. So
Oh
he
God.
might be doing this tune-up, and then he might be fighting Teofimo Lopez as his next fight. So
Hmm.
those are fights that are bigger fights, right? And what is Boots left with? Who he gonna fight? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he already fought.
So I'm done talking because you close this out.
Hey, you know what it is. We just clutched up and we just went clutched out on y'all boys and females for the females that do get on here and watch our stuff as well. But at the same time, we talked about Brian Norman Jr. We talked about Boots in the situation. We talked about Eddie Hearn. Y'all always feel free to hop on here and share anything y'all want to share about anything we talk about. You know what I'm saying? Continue to subscribe, share, like whatever you want to do with it. Hate, we ain't running from no smoke, as K Post say all the time. Excuse me. We over here, we shooters. We shooters, and we talking about vids. Small disclaimer: we ain't talking about shooting nobody. We just talking about shooting these videos. You know what I'm talking about? But again, that's my main man, Boss Dog, K Post through the door. Me, I'm Brody on the hustle, aka Coach B, and we up out of here. You feel me?